A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, while the X-Wing was being utilized by the Rebel Alliance as a way to defeat the Empire, its sister ship was, of course, the Y-Wing. The Y-Wing was utilized by the Grand Army of the Republic, the Alliance to Restore the Republic, and the New Republic, and lasted all the way from 22 BBY all the way till the high end of the New Republic and the New Jedi Order, and was utilized by every single faction that you can think of. So today we're going to be going through the Y-Wing, why it was so good, why it lasted for so long, and how powerful it was whenever it came to being utilized by the Grand Army of the Republic and the Rebel Alliance. So without further ado, here we go. But first, as always, we start with a breakdown. The BTL Y-Wing Starfighter was created by Coinsire Manufacturing as an assault starfighter and bomber, being utilized as a bomber and a snub fighter before 22 BBY. It was created and used by the Galactic Republic, the Alliance to Restore the Republic, the New Republic, the Resistance Fleet, and the Citizens Fleet, as well as many other pirate organizations throughout the entirety of the galaxy. The official rating of this ship was basically as a multi-role starfighter bomber manufactured for the Grand Army of the Republic during the Clone Wars, and many of the surviving Y-Wings would go on to serve the Alliance to Restore the Republic during the Galactic Civil War, when they would be fighting against the Galactic Empire. But of course, the ship had to start from somewhere. The BTL-B Y-Wing was the original signature model created for the Republic Navy in the early stages of the Clone Wars, designed as a combination starfighter and long-range bomber that would replace the V-19 Torn Starfighter and of course the Jedi Interceptor. The idea was basically to have a regular pilot situated with a co-pilot / gunner, and also an astromech droid that would be able to effectively go out onto the battlefield to destroy higher capital ships and to destroy major ships and knock out their shield generators, their power supplies, and literally everything that would keep the lights on in the ship during the time of a massive fight. But then, of course, the Clone Wars ended, the Empire took over, they wanted their own ships, and they created the TIE Fighter along with the TIE Bomber, which was utilized as the sister ship to the TIE Fighter, and the BTL-B Y-Wing was effectively scrapped, and many of the actual Y-Wing starfighters from the Clone Wars actually survived all the way until after the Clone Wars, and were basically set up to be scrapped, but then were taken over by the Rebel Alliance and the Alliance to Restore the Republic, and were utilized by them to effectively have them be their classified main bomber. And because of that, the Rebel Alliance decided to get their hands on the Y-Wing and create the BTL-A4 Y-Wing, which was a very scrapped down version of every single Y-Wing that came before that was under the commission of the Galactic Republic and the Republic Navy. They took down every single modification, every single port, every single heavy material casing, leaving only the cockpit and an astromech droid for immediate repairs on the ship, making it more maneuverable, making it lighter, making it faster, and making it to where that if quick repairs needed to be done, that repairmen and engineers could basically get into the innards of the Y-Wing and repair it no problem, easy peasy. But of course, there were some redesigns of the Y-Wing, like the BTL S3 Starfighter, which retained the tail gunner position from the BTL-B, though it eliminated the elevated bubble turret by seating the pilot and the gunner back-to-back in the cockpit. And of course, there was the BTA-NR2 Y-Wing, which was a completely rehauled and reinvigorated variation of the original BTL-A4 single-seat variant Y-Wing that was known as the Rebel Y-Wing, or the Starfighter that broke the Empire's back. And of course, as the Rebel Y-Wing was considered to be one of the most notable ships in the entirety of the Rebel Alliance, there were still many individuals who actually piloted these Y-Wings, and who were very notable pilots in the entirety of the Rebel Alliance itself. Like Yvonne Verlaine, who was the pilot seen flying away from the Death Star as it was exploding alongside the Millennium Falcon and 2 X-Wing pilots, that being Wedge Antilles and Luke Skywalker. And of course, there was also Keon Farlander, who was actually the original pilot in the original film in Legends continuity. And along with that, you had several other individuals that actually flew the Y-Wing, like Ikirlak Yang, who was a member of Grey Squadron, whose Y-Wing unfortunately was shot down during the Battle of Endor, but he was able to crash his ship into an Imperial-class Star Destroyer and destroyed the entire thing, conveniently enough. There was John Dutch Vander, who was an ace pilot who led Gold Squadron during the Battle of the First Death Star, but who unfortunately died. There was also Ace Azimin, who was a Y-Wing pilot who flew on several missions, including to destroy a super laser that was mounted onto an Imperial battle station, and Hamo Blastwell, who was another member of Ret Squadron who flew Y-Wings during the time of the Galactic Civil War and during the time of the Battle of the Death Star, who unfortunately also died. And earlier, when I listed off the quote of the Y-Wing being the ship that broke the Empire's back, I do quite literally mean that in every literal sense that I could possibly imagine. The Y-Wing was an extremely dangerous ship for the Rebel Alliance, and probably a game changer considering how powerful it was and how notable it was throughout the entirety of the Galactic Civil War. The standardized Y-Wing was equipped with quite literally every weapon that you could possibly imagine while on the battlefield, with 2 different laser cannons right up front, ion cannons on rotating turrets to be able to fire upon capital ships to take down their shields, as well as various different amounts of bombs and torpedoes, like the proton torpedoes, cluster missiles, concussion missiles, ion torpedoes, proton bombs, and different charges that you could eject from the actual ships themselves to create massive amounts of damage. There was no ship that could handle the capabilities of the Y-Wing itself, and the Y-Wing was such a notable piece that oftentimes TIE fighters would immediately direct on the Y-Wings themselves to risk as much minimal damage as possible. But the thing that the Y-Wing was very well known for, as well as the X-Wing that I forgot to talk about in my previous video, was the fact that the X-Wing and the Y-Wing were both used for hit-and-run tactics and guerrilla fighting styles. And with the addition of a hyperdrive, it made it so much easier for the Y-Wing and the X-Wing to be able to run into a planetary system with an Imperial Star Destroyer or possibly an Imperial Starbase, destroy the shields, take out the entirety of the Starbase or the Star Destroyer itself, and then just bail out of there before the Empire had the ability to send in reinforcements through another Imperial-class Star Destroyer. It was such an ingenious move that the Rebels could easily just go back and forth from base to there to base to another system, base to another system, and just take out entire Imperial-class Star Destroyers in mere minutes with surprise tactics that they had no ability to counteract against unless they had knowledge beforehand that they were going to attack. But with that being said, yeah, that's the Y-Wing for you. One of the best ships in the entirety of the Rebel Alliance, and probably one of the greatest ships that was ever used during the time of the Galactic Civil War. I hope you guys really liked this video, and I hope you share, like, and subscribe. Until then, I'll see you guys later.